Have you ever met a salesperson that just knows everything that they need to know and aren't interested in learning anything new in the car business? Well, that's called being rotten. So, we're going to go into what it means to be green, rotten, and ripe in the car business. This is within your first year. Typically, sometimes it extends a little bit longer than that, but we're going to talk about what it means to be green, rotten, and ripe. I'm Brandon, and this is Next Gen Sales Training. So you just started in the car business. Now you're getting to get your training in, you're getting in front of customers more often, you're starting to get used to doing write-ups, getting used to doing pencils, taking customers on demos, the different things that you need to do in order to sell a car. You're doing that on a consistent basis now, but as a brand new salesperson, usually in your first couple of months, if you have any sales knack just as a person or an individual, if you're just naturally good at it, what I've noticed traditionally happens is the first few months you are typically just an absolute sponge. You're learning everything that you can learn within again the first few months. You're taking in knowledge from each different salesperson, you're listening to your managers, you're doing things by the book, you're going above and beyond on demos, going above and beyond on walkarounds. You're trying to get customers involved on everything, and you're just an exquisite salesperson by the book to everything. So that's the best place to be as a new person, because you're, again, a sponge. What a sponge means is you're taking in all the information, you're absolutely soaking it up, and then you're able to use that on each car deal. What we find happens is that's your green stage. So you're a green pea in the car business. What a green pea is just someone who's brand new. Being a green pea isn't exactly a bad thing, because you get to learn, and you're not letting your ego get in the way of you selling a car. You're just out there to do the business and learn as much as you can. After being a green pea, or after the green stage, it goes to rotten. So what happens? So when you're in the green stage, let's go over again what you traditionally do. You're going to be training constantly. You're going to do things by the book, and you're going to be able to take in information from everybody with an unbiased opinion on it. Going into the rotten stage, you start to think you know more than you actually know, because you got a few car deals under your belt now. This is usually in month 4, 5, 6, somewhere around there. And the rotten stage is the absolute worst place to be, and I'll get to why. When you're rotten, you think you know how to do things before they happen. You're predicting what the customer's going to say. You're predicting a customer pulls onto the lot, and you're pre-qualifying them and saying that, oh, that person drives a brand new car. They're not going to be interested in buying anything, so I'm not even going to take that up. That causes you to lose more car deals than you can even imagine. Whenever you're in the rotten stage, it's just an ego trip. It's just overall, you think you know more than you actually know. I can't stress enough how important it is to not stay in that stage. So you'll go green, rotten, and then the next stage is ripe. Ripe is good for the picking. The best way to explain what that is after you leave your green stage, you go into rotten, and you think you know too much. What happens at the end of your rotten stage? Inherently, you're going to go into a lull. So you're going to have a slump of sorts, and you're going to sell less. You'll probably have a month where you sell 15, 20 cars coming out of your green stage, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a stellar salesperson. I know exactly what I'm doing. And after you leave that stage, you going into rotten, you start to predict things too much, and that causes you to lose more deals than you can think, because you're not approaching it in the way you've been trained to approach it. So within the rotten stage, you start to lose deals. You go into that lull. And then ripe, you realize you're in the lull. So you start to find out ways, okay, what got me into the month where I sold 20? What got me into the month where I sold 15, 25, however many you sold in your good month? You start to look back and get back to the basics, back to the fundamentals of things. You're training. You start to listen to people and what they're saying, what they're teaching, the people who are performing. You go a little bit back into that green stage in order to pull yourself out of the rut. With being in the ripe stage, It's the best place to be, but eventually you'll just stay at that point. You'll stay at the right point because you'll know that you're never too knowledgeable in a situation where you can't learn. You have to constantly be ready to learn from each scenario. So again, to recap, you've got green, you're training constantly, you're soaking up everything like a sponge. Rotten, you think you know way too much and you start to lose deals because of it, because you're predicting scenarios rather than preparing for them. And ripe. Ripe is whenever you fall out of, or you pull yourself out of the rut and you start to become an expert salesperson again. The activity that you should do on a day-to-day basis, you should constantly be looking for ways to learn how to do your job better. Not changing your job drastically, but just the little things and the ins and outs, just constantly keep it on your mind. In your first year in the car business, you should be absolutely absorbing everything that you can and taking in information, but constantly be looking for different routes, different training scenarios you can put yourself in. For example, whenever I first started at my previous location, after every deal, whether I closed the deal or I missed the deal, I would go into one of the offices with one of the other salespeople that I knew were pretty good salespeople, and I would recap that deal. Again, whether I closed it or whether I didn't. When we recapped those deals, I start to explain things that I feel I done well or that could have been better. And what you do whenever that scenario happens, you're rehearsing it in your mind. It's almost like role-playing in training scenarios, but you're recapping the experience with somebody else who's in the business and understands what you're talking about, and you're able to learn from each scenario. That's the biggest point, is learning from every scenario that you're putting yourself in. Your first year is going to be a lot of learning. It's just learning. And I can't stress enough how important that is to stay active in your learning and your training. And it doesn't always have to be watching videos like this, but it can just be watching. I forget the guy's channel, but he has a luxury dealer and he sells cars like over the phone. He does live, and YouTube's where I watch it, but he sells a lot of cars and he's one of the owners of the dealership. But it's always interesting for me to see how he negotiates a deal, because he always makes it where it's a nonchalant deal and it's very conversational, and he makes friends with the people really fast. And he's got a really big name out there, so it makes it a lot easier for him to have instant rapport. But I'm constantly watching those types of videos. That way, whenever the time comes where I have a customer in front of me, I'm able to just pull in the information that I already have, if that makes sense. I don't know whose quote this is, but I consistently say it. You never have to get ready if you stay ready. And that's this exact scenario. So you're constantly learning, you're constantly training, and keeping your mind active in that, especially in your first year. To recap what we've just talked about: green, rotten, ripe. When you're green, you're brand new. You're a sponge soaking everything up. When you're rotten, you think you know too much. And when you're ripe, you're back to basics and learning every single day, and you're getting better at your craft. Biggest takeaway from today: constantly stay learning. If you're not watching our videos, you should be watching some sort of videos in your downtime. Whether you're watching them at the gym or listening to them at the gym, I constantly am listening to audiobooks, trying to better myself in my craft and learn how to communicate better, learn how to sell better, learn how to build relationships better. There's a ton of sales books out there. I'd love to give some recommendations if you guys are interested at all. But constantly be learning is the biggest takeaway from today. Again, we always appreciate you guys watching the videos. If you could, subscribe, like, and share. We'd love to help out as many people as possible. And again, thank you for watching.